What's up, meatbags? It's the often imitated, never duplicated Tony TGD coming at you once again with a video. But it's not just any video. This time we're talking about Melonie Mac and the hypocrisy. That's right, the hypocrisy that she's been showing lately. You see, I didn't really want to talk about this. This isn't a subject that I've been looking into a lot. But we had a live stream the other day. Someone mentioned Melonie Mac. And so we took a look. And I was astounded by the amount of hypocrisy coming from this one person. And we're going to focus on some of that today. We're going to be talking about her criticisms of the story of the rebooted Tomb Raider franchise. But before we get into it, let me remind you to like the video, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already for more great content just like this. Now, this here is Melonie Mac's appearance on the Critical Drinkers channel. This is Happy Hour number 47, Tomb Raider franchise featuring Melonie Mac. Now, this was about 8 months ago. Let's see what Melonie Mac has to say about the Tomb Raider franchise.
Yeah, it does feel like it. And then even when you, the story isn't coherent among the trilogy. I think, obviously, it's just all speculation. But what it appears to me is that originally it seems like they set up the reboot to where they wanted to go back to the classic style. But because the reboot game sold so well, they were like, let's turn it into a trilogy. And then when they did, then the story like contradicts each other from time to time, especially from Rise to Shadow. It doesn't add up and it doesn't line up, and it's just kind of a mess story-wise.
So she says it's kind of a mess story-wise. It doesn't add up. It doesn't line up. Contradicts itself. Also, bonus hypocrisy. She said that the reboot sold so well that that's why they turned it into a trilogy. Now, if you go to her channel, Melonie Mac Go Boom, you'll see that she's claiming that the reboot trilogy actually didn't sell well, which kind of contradicts what she just said here. But that's not all, because she released a video a couple months ago. And again, she's talking about the story of the Tomb Raider reboot. But this time, it's in context to the movies. So this is from her channel, Melonie Mac Go Boom. It says, Tomb Raider movie sequel looks unalived. So this is talking about the rebooted, the movie, the non-Angelina Jolie movie, but rather the new movie starring what's her name? Vikander. Well, let's see what Miss Melonie Mac has to say.
Wanted to continue on, that he just wanted to continue with, well, it's him and his wife duo, I believe, writing and directing. And what they wanted to do was basically continue the stories that we've seen with the rebooted games, which to me, that's one of the weakest things in the entire rebooted franchise is the story. So it makes zero sense to act.
So she says the weakest part of the reboot series is the story. The weakest part. The other stuff might be bad, but the absolute worst part is the story. Now, we're going to skip ahead in this video because she talks about the movies. We're not really interested in that particular criticism right now. We're just focusing on the video games, the rebooted trilogy, and her thoughts on it. So we're going to skip ahead to about 6:41. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. 6:40.
It's not perfect, and I think the biggest flaws of the movie have to do with the fact that it did follow the story of the game. It did a better job than the game did for many reasons, especially with Lara Croft's characterization. But ultimately, I feel like the rebooted story, the rebooted everything about Lara Croft and the series in general has really tainted the franchise, and I've already went over a lot of that in the past.
So she said that she feels that the rebooted franchise has tainted Laura. The story's terrible. Everything's terrible. And she's gone over it in the past. Now, this is actually true. This is very true. Melonie Mac has gone over these franchises, these games in the past. So we're going to see what she has to say about these particular things. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the original game, the 2013 game. And this is from March 5th, 2013, right when the game was released. Melonie Mac here says, as a fan from the original game in 1996, it brings great pleasure for me to say this new Tomb Raider is my favorite one yet. So right there, when the new 2013 Tomb Raider came out, Melonie Mac says it's better than the originals, better than any other Tomb Raider that had been made up until that point. And then, of course, you got people asking the questions. That is so awesome to hear. Melonie Mac replies, I'm in gamer heaven with this game. Someone else says, from the videos I saw, it seemed like a ton of scripted events. Any exploration at all? And Melonie Mac says, tons of exploration and secrets to discover. It's not all scripted. Anne Marie says, sweet. That's great to hear. I need to go pick up mine today. Melonie Mac lets her know you will love it. And of course, someone gave her a compliment. That account is suspended, but she said, best compliment ever. Seems like she really, really enjoyed that first Tomb Raider game. But let's look at one more tweet in regards to this first Tomb Raider game. You see, I couldn't find any review for this original Tomb Raider, a 2013 reboot game, but I found a couple tweets. And this is another tweet here. It says, well, I beat Tomb Raider. Now excuse me while I cry since it's over. Mr. Rob here says, was it that short? Oh my. Melonie Mac says 14 hours and I still have a lot of collectibles challenges. Not too short. Rob replies, by the way, what's your verdict? Best of the series? Melonie Mac replies, best portrayal of Lara Croft by far. Couldn't have imagined a better young Lara personality. Amazing game. I'll review it. I didn't find the review. I don't know if it's written, if it's lost to the sands of time. But there you go. When the game came out, a day after, she's saying it was the best portrayal of Lara Croft by far. Best, hands down. This is a fan of the original games. This is a fan who has loved the Lara Croft series. Says Lara Croft was an inspiration to her as a child. And here she is saying, best portrayal. This kind of contradicts what she was saying before, right? Because in the last couple of months, she's been saying that the game was garbage. You heard her. She said it is the worst portrayal of Lara Croft ever. You know, all kind of stuff like that. But here it is. She was saying it's the best. Now, that was just the original game. Obviously, the game's quality have dropped since the reboot, right? You know, she even said the reboot one sold so well. I'm sure the other two, Rise and Shadow, probably didn't sell as well. Probably were not as well received. But fortunately for us, we can find out. We can find out how these two games fared for Miss Melonie Mac. And here it is. Rise of the Tomb Raider review. No spoilers. Found from the essence, gathered out of the ether and brought to you so you can hear what Miss Melonie Mac has to say about Rise of the Tomb Raider. Let's go. Let's hear it.
Able to give you guys what you're looking for with that. So I'm just going to start off and briefly touch on the story, but not get too much into detail with that because that is something I do not want to spoil for anybody. I have to say, just overall, the story is the absolute best story we've ever seen in any Tomb Raider game. Of course,
the absolute best story in any Tomb Raider game. This is Rise of the Tomb Raider, the second one. First, you said the first one, Tomb Raider, the reboot, 2013, was the best. Now we're getting to the second one. We're getting to Rise, and now she's saying Rise is the best. Rise has gotten better than the previous game. She loves the story.
My opinion, but I've played every single Tomb Raider game. They've all had their ups and downs story-wise, and for the reboot that we got, the last game before this one, I didn't like the story. I have to be honest. I did not like.
So now she's saying she didn't like Tomb Raider, the reboot. She didn't like that story. But this story is good. I'm confused, Melonie. I'm confused because those tweets seem to indicate she liked the story for the first one.
The story at all. I thought it was too much of a whole rescue mission thing. It was a whole Lara Croft just whining and complaining about the elements and all that. You know, I do understand where she was coming from. I do understand the whole story, how it made sense of that. That's how she became a Tomb Raider and all that. But I just didn't like it. I didn't like the story at all. It did not appeal to me. And I just felt like it didn't do the game justice, even though the game was really great. But I'm not a fan of the story for the reboot. However, Rise of the Tomb Raider, absolute best story I've ever seen in any Tomb Raider game ever. And I just feel like it was a lot more in-depth. it had the whole like Lara actually chasing after an artifact element that I really do like about the classic stories, and even the Legend and Anniversary and Underworld stories as well. So I just feel like a Tomb Raider game needs that. You know, you have to have Lara chasing an artifact, something.
All right, so she obviously has changed her mind. She said she doesn't like Tomb Raider, didn't like the story, but she loves Rise of the Tomb Raider. All right, so we're 1 for 1, right? But I wonder what was her opinion of Shadow, right? Again, snatched from the ether and brought back to you. You're not going to find this. You can go looking, you can go searching for this review, but you won't find it because Miss Melonie Mac has decided to snap it out of existence. But unfortunately for her, and fortunately for you, I was able to rescue it from an alternate dimension, bring it back, and let's hear what she has to say.
Inspirational. I love seeing her sassy side and stuff like that, like in Tomb Raider 1 and in Tomb Raider Chronicles especially. She was very sassy. But we didn't always see a wide range of emotions from her, and I feel like that's partially because of the technology back then and the storytelling, and the games back then aren't as grand as they are now, and in depth and all that good stuff. So I do feel like they're able to portray a lot more now in games than they could back then.
So she's saying that the games now are better than the games back then because technology didn't allow you to have as grand of a story, as good, all that good stuff, like she said. Now, if we skip ahead to about 8:20 in this video, we're going to get a little more insight as to what she feels about Lara Croft. So there we go, 8:21. What do you have to say, Miss Melonie Mac?
Just so much, just to see all that from her, you know? So yeah, that had me shaken up. It still does. And I still I want to beat the story again so that I can process it more. So the story overall, I think, was definitely the best we've seen in a very, very long time. Of course, I really love Lara's characterization, but they did a good job with the story overall too. And one of my fears was that Jonah was going to be in with Lara too often. And I shared this in one of my preview videos. But I can say that that's not the case. There is a lot of Lara by herself. And when Jonah is there, it works well because that way we get more personality from Lara herself. And that's the thing, is I feel like they paced it well, because whenever you have Jonah there and you see her personality, like Lara's personality, interacting with him and then bouncing off of each other, and they complement each other well. Because Jonah, he's the social one, Lara's the introvert, and she's the one.
So again, she's saying she liked it. I let her play a little long, so you won't say that I was clipping out of context. But she said she liked it. Best story in a long time. And obviously there was a big gap between Rise and Shadow, where we had some other Tomb Raider properties released in that time frame. So her saying it was the best in a long time makes sense, because she loved Rise and she loved Shadow. She might not have liked the stuff that was in between. Now, of course, this all stemmed from that complaint about the movie, right? The complaint about the movies following the script of the story and how the story was the weakest part. So we also have this, once again, 3 for 3, snatching things from the ether. Tomb Raider movie review, no spoilers, Melonie Mac. Let's see what you have to say.
Absolute favorite part about the movie. And then, other than that, I'd say with the actual story itself, I think they did an amazing job. And I think that they really cared a lot about the franchise. And they really paid attention to what makes Tomb Raider Tomb Raider. And I am so annoyed at some reviews that are there's literally a review, and I posted it on Twitter. And he's the guy was oh, this is ridiculous. It's just traps and spike pits and snakes and spiders. Seriously, are we doing this again? And it's what do you expect out of Tomb Raider? Seriously? It's Tomb Raider. Coltrane's yeah, for real. It's Tomb Raider. What do you expect? I just don't get it. I'm how can you complain about spike pits? And spiders and snakes and all that. It's how can you complain about that kind of stuff? It is Tomb Raider. Do you realize? And some people are oh, it's just.
So again, she liked the story of the movie, which is based on the story of the rebooted games. Melonie Mac, can you get your story straight? I know one of the Melonie Mac fans, they're gonna let you know. They'll send you this video. They'll say, hey, this guy's talking shit. This Frog King, he's talking shit. So when you get the memo, when you get notified of this video, let me know exactly how you feel. How is it that you came to the conclusion that the story was garbage? Because obviously before you were loving it. You loved it when the first game came out in 2013. You loved the second game when that one came out, but then you shit on the first game. And then when the third game came out, you said, hey, that was the best one ever. And it was great characterization, the best characterization of Lara Croft ever. I'm getting really, really confused. It seems like you just say whatever you want. You say whatever the popular opinion is. You say whatever you think is going to get you the clicks. It's going to get you the money, the attention. You might be a fan of Tomb Raider since its inception, but you're obviously not a fan of telling the truth, Melonie Mac. But that's all I got to say about that. You know how we do it here. Love, peace, booty grease. I'm out this bitch.